He Weifang's words dealt a severe blow to Liu Chang's self-esteem. He pleaded with Prince Ning to cancel his marriage with Li Youzhen. Liu Shen was furious. Liu Chang humbly begged Chen to put in a good word for him before Prince Ning. Later, Liu Chang was sent to work in the stables, where he was bullied and forced to drink the water used for washing horses. Meanwhile, Qin Xingyi returned home with joy, hoping to visit her family, only to be met with cold indifference. In the eyes of her family, a married woman was like spilled water, irretrievable. If she was beaten, scolded, or even divorced, it was always considered the woman's fault. It was a chilling and heartless home. Qin Xingyi came to burn paper offerings for her unborn child, who had died before birth. There, she encountered Wang Qing. Wang Qing pretended to be affectionate and tried to please her, but the sight of him only brought back painful memories. This meeting foreshadowed her tragic fate. Qin Xingyi once again fell into Wang Qing's grasp. Unintentionally, she revealed past events concerning Yi Weifang. Wang Qing would never let such a golden opportunity slip away. Through coaxing and deception, he managed to extract even more information about Yi Weifang. Was Qin Xingyi naive or simply ignorant? They remarried. After coaxing her into drinking the nuptial wine, Qin Xingyi lost consciousness. Wang Qing's goal was simple. He wanted Wamanzu. Wasting no time, Wang Qing went to the authorities and accused Yi Weifang of forging a civilian registry to open a flower shop in the city and amass wealth illegally. Without investigating the truth, the officers stormed in to arrest her. Yi Weifang's first reaction was to instruct Zhu Fu to warn Su Zuping to flee, an act that spoke volumes about her character. In the courtroom, Liu Shen and his wife appeared as witnesses, with Li Youzhen playing an instrumental role in stirring the trouble. She knew everything about Liu Chang's misery in the stables, including the tavern he frequented, and right across from that tavern stood Wamanzu, owned by none other than Yi Weifang. The corrupt officials colluded, and Yi Weifang was sentenced to be sent to a military camp outside the city as a government slave. When Qin Xingyi woke up from her drunken stupor, she found the doors and windows locked. She rushed outside, only to realize that Wamanzu had already fallen into Wang Qing's hands. Zhu Fu was furious at Wang Qing's despicable schemes and Qin Xingyi's betrayal. Alone, she stood no chance against the many enemies. Before parting, Zhu Fu tore her robe, severing all ties with Qin Xingyi. Meanwhile, Yi Weifang, punished with beatings, was sent to the military camp, where she was cared for by a mute woman. Even in her wounded state, she was forced to labor. The rations were meager and often stolen. In the military camp, convict slaves had no dignity. The two women leaned on each other, struggling to survive. At that time, Jiang Changyang had traveled to Luoyang, the hometown of Yi Weifang. Jiang Changyang's journey to Luoyang was part of an undercover mission with the emperor, investigating Prince Ning and his faction's corruption. While there, he visited Zhang's noodle shop, the place Yi Weifang had always longed for. A man approached, asking for a bowl of noodles. From the story he told and the unique Yi family roasted flatbread Jiang Changyang had once shared with Yi Weifang, Jiang Changyang deduced that this man was her father. He had come to pay tribute to his daughter, whom he believed had fallen off a cliff and perished, with the noodles she had loved most. Meanwhile, in the military camp, the sound of drums echoed. The convict slaves were being used as live targets for new soldiers to practice archery, a cruelty beyond words. As the arrows flew, some died instantly. Yi Weifang refused to live in constant fear of being shot to death. She secretly collected poisonous plants and mixed them into the soldiers' dinner. That night, the soldiers fell ill. She then brought them an antidote and, under the guise of caring for the sick, managed to transfer herself to the physician's quarters. This was the beginning of her rise in adversity. Liu Chang wrote a letter to Yi Weifang, but it fell into Li Youzhen's hands. Furious, Li Youzhen wasted no time in retaliation. That very day, the mute woman was beaten to death. Afterward, Yi Weifang was reassigned to the kitchen. That night, she encountered lecherous men. She fought desperately to resist, but just as things seemed hopeless, he suddenly gasped for air, unable to breathe. Everything came to an abrupt halt. Jiang Changyang, having received a letter from Su Zuping, rode 2 horses to exhaustion to reach the military camp. Yet upon arrival, he was filled with dread. But when he caught sight of a familiar figure from behind, his emotions surged. Relief, sorrow, and everything in between flickered through his once calm eyes. It wasn't luck that saved Yi Weifang. The mute woman, having overheard the conspirators' plans, had used her final moments to warn Yi Weifang. It was her sacrifice that saved Yi Weifang's life. Seeing Yi Weifang return, Zhu Fu and the others waiting at the door were filled with worry. Their sisterly bond was as close as family. That day, Zhu Fu had secretly hidden something important to Yi Weifang ahead of time. She was deeply moved. Qin Xingyi returned to this place once again, but the candles kept flickering out in the wind. Was her sin so grave that even the gods refused to forgive her? Wang Qing's supposed affection had now led to a brutal beating. Yet, despite everything, He Weifang still harbored a sliver of sincerity toward Qin Xingyi. However, guilt weighed heavily on her. There was no going back. He Weifang was determined to reclaim Huamanzhu. At this moment, Madame Tang's 80th birthday was approaching. Known for being demanding and difficult, she held an imperial title, and no one dared to take on the banquet's floral arrangements. Desperately in need of money, Wang Qing offered to accept the order, playing right into Yi Weifang's plan. In the rush, the flowers delivered to the Tang residence soon wilted. The steward came to threaten them, and Wang Qing found himself with no way out. In desperation, he kidnapped Qin Xingyi, who was already covered in wounds. If it weren't for Wang Qing's own greed and incompetence, how could he have been schemed against? He knelt down and begged Yi Weifang for help. An evil man reaps what he sows. Yi Weifang laid out 3 conditions. First, to return Huamanzhu. Second, to kowtow and apologize to Qin Xingyi. And third, to parade through the streets and confess his misdeeds to restore Huamanzhu's reputation. After a night of effort, the withered flowers regained their vitality the next day. Looking at Wang Qing kowtowing, Qin Xingyi, standing among the crowd, felt conflicted. She did not want to go back. She was tightly bound by tradition, struggling to break free. Qin Xingyi, her name meant that everything should go as desired, a life free of worries. She let out a bitter smile. Yi Weifang regained control of Huamanzhu, and the florists were willing to follow her. Everything was thriving. However, moldy millet appeared at Huamanzhu, and Zhu Fu developed a rash. Yi Weifang immediately decided to recall the fragrant powder. Meanwhile, the number of patients suffering from abdominal pain and diarrhea after consuming the spoiled millet continued to rise. Who was behind all of this? After an investigation and gathering evidence, the culprit was revealed, Liu Shen. Peony decided to plan a counterattack. Yi Weifang held the moldy millet and called on the people to file a complaint with the Jingzhou office, but there was no response. This was exactly what she had anticipated. The anger in the hearts of the people needed a spark to ignite. She continued to rally support in the streets, and the atmosphere grew increasingly intense as more and more people joined the cause. Ren Jingzhou soon arrived with his men, and when threats failed, he shamelessly attempted to seize the rice in broad daylight. Such an incompetent official. Yi Weifang struck a gong and argued her case with reason and conviction. Meanwhile, Jiang Changyang hosted a banquet, inviting officials from the Jingzhou office and beyond. After consuming the moldy millet, they all suffered from severe diarrhea. Using this as leverage, Jiang Changyang demanded that the Jingzhou office thoroughly investigate the matter. Word of the incident quickly reached the emperor. The emperor ordered Liu Shen to conduct a full investigation. Realizing that things were falling apart, Liu Shen hurriedly tried to replace the spoiled millet with fresh rice, but the transport overturned on the way. Panicked, Liu Shen attempted to flee, but he could not escape the judgment of justice. Prince Ning watched from the sidelines, while Liu Shen, in desperation, began implicating others, exposing corrupt officials and their bribery schemes. Seeing her father's downfall and his mother weeping beside him, Liu Chang was once again forced into marriage with Li Youzhen. Qin Xingyi sat at home, working on her embroidery. Drunken and furious, Wang Qing tore her embroidered handkerchief to shreds. She had reached her limit. With unwavering resolve, Qin Xingyi grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed Wang Qing. All her resentment and fury transformed into a powerful force, making her stronger than ever in that moment. When Yi Weifang received the handkerchief, she understood everything at a glance. But by the time they rushed to the authorities, Qin Xingyi had already collapsed, barely clinging to life. May she be free in her next life. A twisted tale of Qin Xingyi killing her husband began circulating among the people. How unfair. Yi Weifang burned all the gossip-ridden storybooks and wrote her own account of Qin Xingyi's legend with her own hands. Meanwhile, fewer and fewer customers visited Huamanzhu in the East Market. This was all Li Youzhen's doing. But would this trouble her? Not in the least. She quickly found new opportunities at Huanyunlu and other silk workshops. Li Youzhen grew jealous upon hearing that Liu Chang had gone to see Yi Weifang. She summoned Yi Weifang to the racetrack. As expected, the moment they met, Yi Weifang was met with hostility. A group of riders encircled her on horseback. Without warning, Li Youzhen attempted to charge at Yi Weifang. However, for some unknown reason, the horses kept retreating. Frustrated, Li Youzhen angrily stabbed her horse with a hairpin. The horse immediately lost control and violently trampled her belly. Truly, one reaps what they sow. As a result, she could no longer bear children. Prince Ning was furious and ordered Yi Weifang's capture and execution. At that moment, Yi Weifang was hiding in Jiang Changyang's secret chamber. She overheard Jiang Changyang telling Prince Ning that he intended to take Yi Weifang as his concubine, though it was a mere excuse to stop Prince Ning from taking her away. In truth, it also revealed Jiang Changyang's genuine feelings. He cared about Yi Weifang. Meanwhile, Jiang Changyang tempted Prince Ning with the matter of a vacant position. Li Youzhen brought this upon herself. Compared to personal gain, even the deep affection of the imperial family for their daughters paled in significance. Prince Ning demanded that Liu Chang marry into his daughter, just so Liu Chang would not take concubines. How could Liu Chang possibly agree? Liu Shen, terrified, immediately signed the marriage agreement on his son's behalf. How utterly ridiculous! Liu Chang refused to accept this fate. His pride and stubbornness became his downfall. Prince Ning had his legs crippled and threw him into prison. Even then, he attempted to resist Prince Ning's overwhelming power through a hunger strike. A servant informed Liu Chang that his parents had happily accepted the 20 chests of betrothal gifts and told him to resign himself to his fate. It was truly unfortunate to have such parents. He also received wedding pastries from Weifang and Jiang Changyang. At that moment, Weifang suddenly realized that, throughout this journey, she and Jiang Changyang had indeed developed a certain ambiguous connection. Jiang Changyang had followed her wishes in arranging the wedding, keeping everything simple, hosting no banquet for guests, but still ensuring the wedding pastries were delivered. Liu Chang's eyes were filled with hatred. He pretended to gaze at Li Youzhen with deep affection, claiming he was willing to marry into her and stay with her forever. He set the wedding date for 10 days later. Time was tight, and the flower market could not provide an unparalleled bloom. Liu Wanrong sought help from Weifang. She happened to have a newly cultivated flower called Jin Chanyao, a variety of peony recorded in ancient texts. Though she had no intention of taking advantage of the situation, she struck a deal. Liu Wanrong obtained Jin Chanyao, while Weifang regained Fan Yuan, the garden her mother had left her. It was a fair trade, nothing more. The night before her wedding, Weifang felt at peace. She was marrying Jiang Changyang, and that made her happy. The next morning, as she was dressing, Liu Genchuan rushed over in a panic. Meanwhile, outside the door, Jiang Changyang was continuously scattering money, calling for the doors to open so he could fetch his bride. At Prince Ning's residence, the Jin Chanyao flowers had been devoured by larvae at the roots and were on the verge of wilting. Veiled and unfazed by the crisis, Weifang stepped forward, helping the Liu family avert disaster. When Jiang Changyang heard of it, he rushed over immediately, his face filled with worry. He feared for her life. That same day, Liu Chang's wedding procession also set out. His sedan crossed paths with theirs. Weifang's face was bright with joy, while Liu Chang, though outwardly smiling, was consumed by disgust and misery. They, content and at ease, drank their wedding toast together. They carried out all the wedding rites one by one. His aunt sent someone on horseback to swiftly deliver the jade comb as a wedding gift. This jade comb had originally been prepared by Jiang Changyang's mother for her future daughter-in-law. She helped him remove his outer robe, and he took off her hair ornaments. When the time came for the wedding night, all the onlookers outside the door were driven away. Weifang couldn't help but reflect. Her first marriage had been real, yet the life that followed had been absurd. This time, the marriage was fake, yet she could finally be her true self. On Liu Chang's side, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol on his wedding night. He understood that if he couldn't climb to the highest ranks and become the one in control, he would forever be at the mercy of others. After leaving the bridal chamber, Jiang Changyang was in high spirits, generously rewarding the servants wherever he went. But soon, he learned that Weifang had moved to Fan Yuan. She had not returned for 2 days, and he found himself alone, roasting meat in solitude. Just then, Prince Ning arrived, with a woman, whom he gifted to Jiang Changyang as a concubine. Jiang Changyang had no choice but to accept her. The woman's name was Lianzhou, delicate and captivating. Not only that, but Prince Ning also arranged a banquet. In the courtyard of the Jiang residence, Weifang and her group were celebrating the groundbreaking feast. Jiang Changyang explained to Weifang that taking a concubine was not his wish, and she said she would cooperate with him. At the banquet, Weifang's grace and poise won praise from the guests. Even more amusing was that night, Jiang Changyang, trying to avoid the wedding chamber, sneaked into Weifang's courtyard. Lianzhou came rushing over. The two of them acted in perfect sync. He pretended to be drunk, and she tended to him carefully, the duo putting on a convincing show to send Lianzhou away. She then brought out the contract and offered Jiang Changyang 20% of the revenue from Fan Yuan. But was it money he truly cared about in that moment? Sadly, at that time, she couldn't read his heart. The business at Huamanzhou was thriving more than ever, and tickets for Fan Garden's opening sold out immediately. Jiang Changyang thought Weifang would never return, but to his surprise, she came back that very night, much to his joy. He helped her weed the garden and unexpectedly unearthed a jar of aged Nuerhong that her mother had buried for her years ago. The two of them chased each other around, bickering and laughing like a couple flirting. Weifang had drunk quite a bit, and as the alcohol hit her, she lost her balance. Jiang Changyang rushed in like the wind and caught her just in time. He carried her on his back, and as she leaned against him, he held her close, completely content in the moment. Can't wait for the second season to air.